Sophie Mokoena spoke to SABC Deputy Radio Editor Mahatsi Gallens about the ANC's campaign trail in Lephalale Limpopo.
ANC President Jacob Zuma is expected to address the ANC masses here at Kgaseleke Stadium. Earlier on, he spoke to the pensioners, but to get more in terms of his speech, I'm with me here, Mahatsi Gallens, the radio political editor. Mahatsi, can you tell me, in terms of President Jacob Zuma's speech, he was very passionate in terms of tracing the history of the African National Congress. Clearly, this was a final push and also ensuring that this elderly community, they do understand where they come from so that they shouldn't abandon the ANC. What were the highlights of that address?
Sophie, President Jacob Zuma is clearly aware that we are 9 days to go to the election. One of the things that we saw when he spoke to the elderly, he traced back the roots of the ANC from 1912, telling them about the fact that the ancestors were supportive of the ANC and it would be untoward for this generation to forget the party of the ancestors. But we also saw him going for the kill in terms of politics. He basically left none of the opposition political parties unscathed. He went and attacked all of them, starting with the official opposition, the Democratic Alliance, where he basically described them as a child of the National Party, saying a snake gives birth to a snake. He also went to the parties that have broken away from the ANC. He started with COPE, saying that was a party formed by losers at that historical Polokwane conference. He then went on to COPE, he then went on to the UDM as well, saying that Bantu Holomisa, this is a man who was expelled by former President Nelson Mandela, obviously making the link between this man that Nelson Mandela is honored and expelling a politician. And of course, the one that he really drove into was the EFF, knowing that obviously we are in Polokwane where the EFF seems to have growing support. And he was basically saying that they're just a group of ill-disciplined, ill-mannered young people, and the people of Limpopo should not go with them.
Talking about the EFF, he raised concern that should the ANC performance go down in these local government elections, that would signify a turning point in terms of Malema's support in this province. What did you read in that message?
What I read in the message is that he's fully aware that this is Julius Malema's home province. This is where the ANC saw a high number of drop in terms of support in 2014. Remember, this was at some point a province where the ANC could have as many as over 85% in terms of support.
Absolute majority.
Absolute majority. But we saw in 2014 that coming down, and one of the key factors was the coming in of the economic freedom fighters. It was also at the time where the ANC itself in the province was very divided, and they paid highly for that. And they are worried that if the EFF is able to increase its support in this election, it confirms that Julius Malema has a base support. And one of the things that they're very afraid of is for them to actually gain a municipality, because that will be the test for the EFF, that they actually, people trust them enough to even put them in a governing position.
Well, on the same breath, we saw EFF supporters campaigning near the ANC gathering.
It was quite interesting to see, and I thought maybe it's democracy at play, because you had President Jacob Zuma in the room, a packed hall, ANC supporters in their t-shirt, but outside the EFF driving past, and they were very clear that this is part of campaigning. And the fact that it went on without any incident, it was quite peaceful, even though of course some of the songs were a bit insulting to the ANC and to the president, but it went on without any violence. And I thought that was a good sign of democracy, especially in a village where you can have different parties campaigning on the same day. I thought it's a good test for our democracy and a strong showing by the village.
But also indicates political tolerance.
Definitely, Sophie. You know, we've seen so much violence in the lead up to August the 3rd. We've seen people dying, either intra-political issues, but also people declaring some areas no-go zones. That was why for me, seeing the EFF able to do their drive-by campaigning, holding their placards next to the ANC supporters, and no incidents of violence, that's what we should be hoping for as a country.